This Fleet Equipment Unscripted interview is presented by Hendrickson, a leading manufacturer of heavy-duty suspension systems and components to the global commercial transportation industry. Visit hendrickson-intl.com to learn more.
Hey everyone, Jason Morgan, editor of Fleet Equipment, and welcome to Fleet Equipment Unscripted. Got a very special one for you today. We're talking with Neil Cawse, CEO of Geotab. Neil, thank you for taking the time.
Well, thanks so much for having me, Jason. Appreciate it. Looking forward to today's conversation.
So we're going to do two-parter here because I do have more questions than usual for you, and we usually have the chance to catch up a couple times a year. We haven't because of everything that's going on. So I definitely have a lot to catch up with you with. We will jump right into it here. And I want to kind of kick off with this. I've been talking with a lot of people a lot of it before we start recording or not for stories, but I feel like the technology segment has gotten a little quiet last year or this year. Last year, we have a lot of integration news. We saw a lot of solutions being put to work from fleets who maybe upgraded to ELDs and started using more data as the world changed and the pandemic impacted their operations. This year, it seems the technology segment as a whole has been a little quiet in terms of announcement. What is your take on that? How are you viewing fleets using data, and has the industry come along in their sophistication of understanding the solutions?
Yeah, so I mean, initially, obviously, when COVID hit, everybody was in a bit of a panic. Nobody understood how deep it would go, what the ramifications would be, which of their customers wouldn't pay them and go out of business. So you can imagine the turmoil. I mean, we can all remember the turmoil in the beginning. I think very quickly everybody realized that the world wouldn't come to an end. But needless to say, for a long period of time, we saw large fleets, small fleets, everybody kind of group and say, listen, I need to focus on the highest priority items in my business. I need to make sure that my employees are looked after. I need to get through this. And frankly, I need to put aside any of these projects which, could offer me benefit in the long run. I need short-term benefits. And so we definitely saw some large strategic projects canceled or put on the back burner. And I think everybody focused on their core. What certainly has happened, in this kind of lockdown period, I think everybody well understands that, productivity has been pretty good. It's given a chance for companies to kind of relook at themselves, at the heart and soul of who they are, how they operate, what they're doing. We've seen some industries kind of go crazy. In fact, a lot of the transportation sector has done extremely well. I mean, we're facing all sorts of numerous challenges around, how do I get enough drivers and that kind of stuff. So I think a combination of all of those things has slowed down some of that focus. I do feel that a lot of it's starting to come back. I mean, what we're seeing here at Geotab is, it's given, and we'll talk about that later, maybe the supply shortages. February would have been our best month, and then March would have been our best month, and then April would have been our best month ever. So without a doubt, that's a great indicator that people are looking at going, okay, I need to now focus on, what is my long term here? Clearly the world is moving towards automation, data, analytics. We've talked about this before, but you cannot manage what you don't measure. And if you're trying to run an organization effectively, you need to be able to measure and understand what is happening in your organization. I talk about this as you're not looking around the corner. You can't see around the corner, right? Because you haven't got there. But when you do get around the corner, all of a sudden, you see all these things that you can improve in your operations, in your supply chain, in everything that happens. So I think that's what we're seeing is companies are starting to move back to that. But, I think the whole industry has taken, a bit of a breather in terms of the tech companies like Geotab. Because everybody's been so productive at home, what we found is that we've been investing very heavily. In fact, the product roadmaps that we have laid out, over the next period of time is probably the best it's ever been in the history. Because, what else are you going to do but work on Geotab software, And so I think that's the exciting piece. There's going to be a lot of value that's going to come out from us and from our competitors and the like, in terms of being able to help customers, but yeah, I mean, I think, so that would be a summary of, I think, where things are at.
Nice. Now, you're teasing me here and you're going to derail me. Now I need to see this roadmap. Show me all the cool stuff that's coming. Real quickly, though, you mentioned small fleets. One of the big announcements that you did have at Geotab is Geotab for small business and helping and we see this too on the fleet equipment side, right? Service fleets, local fleets, fleets that don't know their fleets, but they're running vehicles. We saw local delivery explode last year when everybody was ordering food to their houses, goods to their houses, right? You've launched a solution specific to helping a business understand the value of their transportation and the costs and everything that goes along with that. How has that rollout been? Is that narrative been receptive to those kind of customers, and how are they using it now?
Yeah, so I mean, look, I think we're getting a lot of interest on our website. It's early days for us, so we're not seeing volume yet, although we're just ramping up. What is interesting to me is the volume of interest that's coming through on the website. If we look and break down the number of people reaching out to Geotab for further information, an overwhelming portion of those people are in the small fleet side. So it just keeps reinforcing to me that there's this massive need. Now, the problem with the small business is, how do you reach these folks, right? I mean, it's very expensive to go and reach out and try and get to every single one of them and go, look, we've got a solution for you. You should really speak to us. This is great. And then getting the solution implemented is expensive. If you're doing business with UPS, fine, it's a long lead cycle and you need to spend 6 months doing pilots and whatnot. But when you get it, it's done. You roll out. But you've got to have that attention to every one of the little small fleets. So I think that's what we're seeing a little bit. But what it's telling me, though, is that there is that interest. The other thing that we've done is we've looked at the problem from an interesting perspective at Geotab. Our cheapest plan is our small business plan, and it has all of the features, which is kind of an unusual thing. And it's a trend that we're seeing a little bit in the software industry, whereas that small fleets don't have the same resources. They don't have the same money, right? They don't have the time. And instead of giving them the basic plan and giving them the cheapest plan, what you do is you give them more of the features. They're not going to be able to use all of the features maybe, but you give it to them at the lower cost because they can't really afford it, and you can help them grow. And when they get bigger, once they get beyond a certain size, then they can start paying what everybody else pays. But it's an interesting take that we took on it, and I think it's a trend that we kind of copied from the software space in general that's really going to help that small fleets kind of ignite and get going. But there is no doubt, given the volume of people coming through our website, that the small fleets are looking at the large fleets, and they read the articles in your magazine,
Yep.
and they go,
Yep.
hold on, that's what those large fleets are doing. I need to get some of that competitive advantage. I might not have the resources, but I can pick and choose what I can focus on, and certainly telematics is coming in there.
Right. No, for sure. We see that. And I mean, the smaller mid-sized fleets is definitely the bulk of the industry in terms of volume of companies, right? They might run fewer vehicles, but there are more of the small fleets than the large fleets. If you're a small fleet watching this right now, please reach out to people. There are solutions here. In fact, one of the things that is up and running and really interesting, and I think pretty unique for Geotab, is the marketplace, right? Being able to plug a lot of even what would seemingly be competitor solutions into a Geotab, structure and device, and leveraging the data that you have there. Where are you seeing that going? Where are customers really investing interest and time? And what are the biggest solutions right now? Is it maintenance, fuel efficiency, electrification? I know you have some work there. What are they using in the marketplace?
Yeah, so I mean, the principle behind the marketplace is quite a simple one, right? And that is that small fleets, even large fleets, you want to start with something simple, and you want to have the flexibility to be able to add things on in the future and grow with the solution. And so the principle being that you can start with an inexpensive device, you plug it in, you can get a lot of value initially, you get yourself going, it's super easy to use, great. And then at some point you turn around and you go, okay, well now I'm ready. This is running smoothly and it's made big difference to my business, but I would like to use it in so many interesting ways. And the idea of the marketplace is, as you said, is to offer these solutions to companies, from the smallest fleets to the largest fleets, to say, well, now you're ready to take on the next piece. Now it integrates beautifully with the Geotab product, and off we go. Now, it is absolutely true that there are competing solutions in the marketplace to some extent to Geotab, and that's perfectly okay. At the end of the day, we've always had this philosophy of focus on what is in the best interest of the customer, and we'll figure out the monetary side later. Like, if you just put your laser focus on that, and we look at it and we go, whatever solution is going to bring benefit to those customers, let's put it on the marketplace and let's not worry about the kind of co-opetition. We'll figure it out. So in terms of the adoption of the marketplace, we're seeing some interesting trends. I mean, one of the things, and it sounds silly, really does, like we're sitting in front of cameras like we are right now all day, every single day. And you kind of get used to it. Like, what? I'm always on camera. And you start asking yourself a question. Well, why are my vehicles that are driving out there not on camera? So one of the biggest demands that we're seeing in the marketplace is actually for camera solutions, which kind of makes sense, right? I got my Nest camera at home. I got now I'm on Zoom, so let's add it to the portfolio. So that's an interesting piece. It's a little bit like, you've got to have real value out of the camera. They're quite expensive, right? You're sending all that data into the cloud. So it's a bit of those where you got your Nest at home and you watch all the cameras outside and you see all the wildlife walking around, but eventually you get bored of it and you never watch it again. And you use it for those emergencies and those situations. Cameras is one interesting one. Asset tracking is another one where we're taking what we've done with our vehicles and we're taking it now one step further, where we're saying, you know what, now I want to track those trailers. Now I've got a bunch of generators that I use in the field, and I want to be able to keep those organized. Even in the indoor tracking is, why does my tracking stop, at the line of where I move the parcel inside or the goods inside? I want to be able to, in my manufacturing plant, know where the tools are in the manufacturing plant, what materials moving around from where to where. And we're starting to get more sophisticated. We're seeing the value of tracking assets. Now we're just changing the definition of assets and broadening it out, saying we start with the high value vehicles, but now we're moving to everything else that fits underneath it. So to me, that's interesting. Also, some of the solutions that are very popular tend to be automation. And I guess what we've done is we've said, we want to take away the drudgery. I mean, that's a large part of when you look at, in the transportation space today and trucking, there was so much that's still done on paper. And really, that is not efficient. I have to write my name out 17 times. It's not quick. Why don't you fill these things in for me? Why do I have all this paperwork? And I think that is really, as the demand for drivers increases, so do the voice of the driver, where they say, stop wasting my time. I want to be able to work and be productive and create an environment for me that I'm happy in. And if I'm filling in paperwork all day and I'm bored out of my mind, that's not always good for me. And so things like mobile form solutions, where you can program these electronic forms, where the data can be pulled from Geotab. Oh, he's at the yard, or he's at the customer already, or how many miles did he drive? Can order be populated? Really makes the driver's life easy, makes his job more interesting. And so that brings a lot of favor there. The other thing is, focusing on driver safety. So it's things like driver management and training, where, what we want to be able to do is say, let the systems detect if Neil's got any mistakes in his driving, and if Neil's forgetting to come to a full stop, or, there's too much harsh braking going on, let's just tell Neil that relative to his peers, he's not driving as safely, and we can get him in for some training and the like. And that's interesting. And then we're seeing the early days of things like EVs, right? So we know that there's this revolution happening, that the world is moving towards, green energy. We know that there's mandates. We hear about all the vehicle manufacturers, one after the other. And it's literally falling down like dominoes, where they're putting out these dates of 2030, 2035, where they won't produce another gas vehicle. We also see companies like, Lion Electric and Arrival and Rivian and commercial vehicle manufacturers starting to produce these last mile delivery vehicles. And we've seen big fleets like Amazon in Europe that are all transitioning to EV. And so really, one of the big focuses is now, how do I follow that transition? What is the practical way for me to go from where I am today, where I'm driving my heavy trucks, to a new world where I can use for certain circumstances initially, EVs and electric vehicles and trucks, and then broaden it out gradually. So software that helps me pick the right use cases, the right circumstances, is starting to become more important in future. So, I think those are the main areas that we're seeing some interest on the marketplace side.
Yeah, for sure. And you went through a lot there too. And I think the important takeaway on my side, going back to what you said about having the customer focus, right? Having their needs in focus. Every fleet's needs are different, right? So you have to have all these segments and solutions to serve the needs. Neil, I have a bunch more questions, a lot more on that customer focus, but we have to call it here for part one. I appreciate you taking the time. We're going to see everyone in part two, so click the link below, and we'll see everyone on the next episode.